think we are very, very privileged today to have Joudie Kalla with us. It's Ramadan, it's the Nakba day, so like there's a lot of things that just like adds up together, and we really love you, Joudie. I personally love your cookbooks, and I learned a lot of things. And I'm a foodie person. Like if you go into my Instagram, you'll see how many dishes I just like get inspirations from your book. So thank you very much for teaching me also how to cook. Also, like following your Instagram, we know, and your website, we know how much you are involved into the community, and you are really a social butterfly and a kitchen star, and a great person, I think, on a human level. So I just wanted to check on you today. How are you doing? How's it going? How do you cope since like this lockdown come in for so many days now and months?
Yes, months. Don't say days. I'm okay. Apart from my minor meltdown today from being hacked into my Instagram account. Obviously, that's first world problems. I'm okay. It's taken some time to adjust. I've been isolating for way before coronavirus came. So I was sick from November through to January with pneumonia. And my doctor actually thought I got coronavirus back then. And then I've been isolating basically since November, minus a 3-week break in February, and then back again. So it's been 6 months. And yeah, it takes its toll, but you know, we're amazing beings. We adapt and we learn how to adjust to our situations, even as horrible as they may seem. But we have roofs over our heads, we have food on our table. So there's many people who don't have that luxury. So I'm happy that that's something I can say, alhamdulillah, I've got it, and I don't mind being locked in my house as long as I'm safe. So it's good. How are you?
We're doing very, very well. And honestly, Joudie, I got a lot of amazing feedback from people who actually love these times, love to be back home. I mean, we live in big cities like, you know, you in London and we here in New York. Where we usually eat outside of our apartment. We spend a lot of time outside of our apartment. So it's not bad to reconnect with our home and cook, learn to cook. And I can tell you, your books were super handy. Help us out.
I've been really enjoying cooking other people's recipes, because you know, when you get into like a flow, if you go out a couple of times a week or every 2 weeks, right, and then you cook a dish that you want because you know you've made it. But then now I've cooked all the stuff I know, and I'm looking at other people's social media, especially a friend of mine, Dalia's Kitchen, one of my favorites. She cooks amazing food. So I've been like really diving into her cooking. She's Syrian, very similar to our food. And also we grew up in Syria and my family were displaced in Syria. So it's very familiar. So I'm really enjoying that side of cooking someone else's recipes, because I never do it. I have like 700 cookbooks. I don't buy them for the recipes. I buy them for support, and I buy them to look at the photos and things like this, but I always do my own version of things. So yeah, it's nice to reconnect somehow.
So you mentioned that you grew up in Syria. Tell us more about your family. And I want to hear also about your mom and how she taught you to cook, and how do you get into the kitchen?
Well, basically, my parents grew up in Syria with their mums and brothers and sisters. And then my dad and mum moved to Qatar. But my mum kept going back to Syria to give birth to us. And we'd stay there for however long until she went back to my dad. And then every summer we'd go back to Syria to stay with my grandmothers and visit them. And it was the longest summers. They're not like now. So they were like 3 months long. And we'd just go around the city in Damascus and just cause chaos, come back, cook, and all of us would have a hand in something. And I remember really amazing memories from those times, because obviously they changed and people died, and my mom stopped going after her mom died. She felt very depressed and she didn't want to visit again. And then my cooking just happened by accident, because my brother was born. I was very jealous that he was there, and I kind of stuck to my mom and just annoyed her to death. And she just put me in the kitchen with her to stay away from trouble. And I just found really a lot of comfort and peace there. So it wasn't an idea even then, like I'm going to be a chef. I just knew I loved being in the kitchen with her and making stuff. And all my aunties and grandmothers would come and visit. And again, slowly as time passed, you know, many of them passed away, but we kept that sort of tradition going on. And then eventually I decided I wanted to be a chef at like 16, but my dad would not have it. he wanted me to be something else, like a banker or a doctor or something. I studied all the things he wanted me to do. And I still wanted to be a chef. So I did my A-levels, which I guess is the SATs in the States.
Right.
And then I went to university, and then I did a master's. And then it was like, khalas, like I've done everything you want. I'm not a banker or a doctor or a lawyer. I want to get messy and go into the kitchen. So yeah, I did all the things I was required to do, but it's something that I'm so happy I did. And I'm so happy I persisted. And he thought I would not fulfill my duty or my time there, but I needed that sort of regimented, almost military style cooking environment, which just sort of put me in a really nice path. And
but it takes something. It takes something to first of all, like to say, I want to be a chef. Like coming, especially in the Middle East. I mean, we love cooking, and we take it for granted that women cook. But it takes something to take the Middle Eastern cuisine to another level. It takes something in terms of character to go beyond what your parents pre-designed for you, and it takes something for a woman also to make a name in the gastronomy / cuisine and kitchen, right? Because it's a very male-dominated industry.
Yes, definitely. I mean, don't forget, I've been doing this for 23 years, and you guys only found out about me when Palestine on a Plate came out. So that's 2016. So imagine all those years before that, what I was doing. And it really does take a long time and a lot of grafting and hard work, and the hours are horrendous. But if you love it, it doesn't matter. I was doing 18 hours a day, 6 days a week for the 15 years before that. And yes, I always worked with men. I was the only girl always. And it sort of teaches you something, actually. I found it very difficult to interact with women in a workplace after. I became almost like a man mentality, like the typical things people think about women, which is very misogynistic, but it does happen, unfortunately. It's very catty and a bit so on. But with men, it's just basic. Like, you do your job, I do my job, and just stay out of my way. And I did eventually work with a whole group of women, but not in the food industry. After I lost my restaurant and my business, and it was very, very difficult. I couldn't cope. I didn't know how to navigate it, because I was a guy in my mind talking to these women, and I just couldn't relate to them. But it's a really interesting. I've seen such a massive shift from when I started when I was 20. Now add the 23 years. That's how old you'll know I am. The social media platform, Instagram, blogging, has created this amazing vacuum of people who are just exploding, and everyone is so much about identity, which I think is amazing. Obviously, before Palestine on a Plate, I cooked everything because I worked in French restaurants, Asian restaurants, Italian restaurants, and very specific Southern French restaurants and Northern Italian. So it's very, very much that kind of cooking. And then when I opened Baity, my restaurant, I wanted it to be a Palestinian restaurant. I was like, why would I cook an Italian dish or a French dish? Not that they're not great, I love them, I cook them all the time, but I wanted to bring my backbone, my history, my mom, my everybody into my kitchen. And that's where it started in 2010. So yeah.
And by the way, New York has its first openly mentioned and Palestinian restaurants with Dakka, that I say hi to him. And your books are there on the shelves. Everyone can see them. So say hi to him.
So happy that they opened. I love that they opened it. And also there's Tanourin as well in New York somewhere. I don't know where, because I've not been to New York in 100 years, but
in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn, yeah.
So when I moved to New York 4 or 5 years ago, I would see a lot of Palestinian dishes being served and they are like typically Palestinians, like msakhan or whatever it is, and being served in restaurants that labels them as Israeli recipe or specialties. And I think Palestinians, we are very sensitive about this issue. And I was complaining about that. And actually a friend of mine, Sultan Qasimi, told me the best way to preserve your culture from being stolen is to share it. And this is how I decided like to post photos of what I cook on Instagram and Facebook. So I want to know, when did you get with this idea? I want to create my first book, Palestine on a plate, and then Baladi.
Well, actually, this happened way before. So my restaurant, which is now closed, it opened in 2010. And I opened it really because around 2005 to 2009, it was a big blast of Middle Eastern restaurants opening.
They labeled it less Israeli because, I mean, of the BDS.
Yeah. Now it's not. Now it's Israeli, but before it was Middle Eastern restaurant. And then you see a subtitle of a real Jerusalem food or Tel Aviv street food. And I knew immediately, obviously, this is not an Arab and this is not Arab food. I mean, it shouldn't be anyway, but and again, like you said, they were cooking sakhan and ma'luba, sayadiyya, wara anab, and the usual suspects like hummus and falafel and all these things. And it just got under my skin because I guess I get historically that Palestinians and Jews live together, right? So we accept this as a historical fact. But it was Palestinian food, it is Palestinian food. And just because a new state was created, you cannot eradicate the fact that these dishes are still Arab Palestinian dishes, even though Jews from pre-1948 ate them, it was still a Palestinian dish. So for me, when I saw this, my heart broke and my mind exploded. And I just thought, no. And every day I would change the menu. So whoever was coming in would not have the same thing twice. So one day it would be sayadiyya, then it would be ma'luba, then it would be kufta bis-saniyya, and then wara anab, and also a million other things, but one main dish. And all my stockists were Palestinian, from beer. Yes, we do drink beer here in England because I don't serve just for Arabs and Muslims. So alcohol, whatever it was from Palestine, from the monasteries in...
Ivy beer is amazing.
Yeah. So beer, the wine, from the olive oil to the za'atar, labne, everything was from Palestinian suppliers. And there's an amazing supplier that I use called Zaytoon, which is a wonderful company that is based here in the UK, but they work with women who are underprivileged and who have basically no family or income, and they put them to work, and most of the money goes back into that community.
Fair trade. Yeah.
And it's all organic, fair trade, and all this stuff, so it's even better. And through the 3.5 years that I was open, it was such a success. And unfortunately, we had to close because we had a really high increase in rents and rates.
Right.
And this caused like an emotional catastrophe crisis for me. But I just stopped focusing on that. And I thought, how can I do the next step? And that happened 2 years later. I had already started writing Palestine on a plate without writing it, if that makes sense. I was just writing recipes because I cooked on my own for 3 years. And then the last 6 months, I was just like, I need somebody to help me because I'm exhausted. So I started writing them for this particular person. And then when we closed, I had this many recipes. And then I started working in another company. To cut a long story short, Palestine on a plate was sort of halfway done. And then an agent called me, a literary agent. And she said to me, what happened to you? I contacted you 3 years ago. I said to her, I'm ready now, And I left my job in this place that I was working in. And I had no job to go to, but I just thought I will live on the advance, which was tiny, by the way. But I lived on it to finish Palestine on a plate for the time that I had. And that's how it came about. It was an accidental kind of forgotten thing. And I wanted to do it, but I couldn't do it. And, life gets in the way. And right. I'm happy it came out when it came out. If it came out earlier, I think I would have been forgotten. And if it came out later, it would have been mixed with all the other books that came out. I think it was perfect time. I believe in fate and timing.
Right.
I think it was great. And I was so proud that it was one of the first Palestinian cookbooks that had Palestine on the cover, which
They're
was
amazing. The recipes are wonderful. The photographies are like even better. Like it's just like everything together is just like super good. It has a lot of taste. I know that we are under time pressure, so I want also to give time to our attendees to ask questions. But before that, I just want to also ask you about your projects right now to help and to give back to the community in Palestine.
Yeah. So both of my
you do a lot.
I don't like to say too much about it because I feel like you shouldn't really tell everybody, but then also I want them to know because if they buy stuff, then it makes it work. So, but both of the books with my North American publisher, Interlink Books, we agreed that both of the books, well, initially Palestine on a Plate before Baity came out, that we would donate a percentage of the money to the House of Friendship in Nablus, which is a children's charity. And then when Baity came out, we agreed that we'd do the same thing because it was doing really well. And from the money that we had raised at that time until like 8 months ago, was the last time I checked, we had managed to renovate the whole building to provide them with safety and, products and things that they need for themselves on a day-to-day basis. And I'm also working now, just from last week, with Paces, which is another charity that's UK-based, but it's based basically on children and athletics and sports, particularly football. And we have now started a Ramadan COVID relief campaign in Jerusalem, working at the Augusta Victoria Hospital, where they're using my recipes to create food for 250 people every day for free to come and eat. And we're hoping to expand it, but because it's like day 6, we're doing 250 until we can get to 500 to 1,000 and carry on. And it's really influenced from Nasser Jabir. I don't know if you know him from the Migrant Kitchen. He's the one who got me in touch with Hani Kattan, who's the founder of the charity. And we just kind of want to do the Migrant Kitchen version in Jerusalem and make it into like 5,000-10,000 meals a day, even post Ramadan, post COVID, to keep this going. I think it's so important to give back to the community in whatever way you can. And so far, everyone's been loving the food and enjoying what's happening, and also to know that these people are being fed without fear and in a sterilized environment and safe and so on. It's so important for me, and I'm so happy that they asked me. And every week they're going to be having a new chef, which is great. So they have a different spin on things. So those are the things I'm doing.
And they are serving the Augusta Victoria Hospital in East Jerusalem, which is the only cancer hospital where people with cancer, patients with cancer from the West Bank and Gaza can go to. It's an amazing hospital, and thank you for doing so. I will handle it to Laura, because I think we have people here like raising hands who wants to engage with you into some questions. Okay. I just want to ask you, to you and people, present yourself first, your name and what you do, and keep your questions very, very, very tight.
I don't know if you can really do that. I think you can just simplify a recipe. And also, listen, the misconceptions of things taking so long is because, I don't know about your parents or grandparents, but when my mom and my grandmothers used to cook things, it would take days, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys can remember your families just cooking, making wada anab or sfiha or whatever it might be. And we just didn't understand what was going on. But they were making 500 sfiha and 1,000 fatayr. And it wasn't like just for a meal. It was like stashing freezer capacity. So I realized actually that most things don't take that long to do. It's just that they did them for an army and for a rainy day. But I think you can make nice stuff. I did in my book, I did like a chocolate labneh cake. I did a cheesecake, a knafa cheesecake that my cousin Hala introduced me to. So I think it's okay to do that. But in the same page, I put the original knafa next to it with a recipe for that. I think you have to always honor where something's come from, even if it's just about Palestinian food or not. It's okay to make a twist, but try to stick. I'm very classic. I like to stick to really original things. I can write a book on twists on everything, but I don't want to do that. I think it's nice to have connection. And the most thing that I've found with a lot of people, unfortunately, that they've lost parents, they've lost grandparents, they're living away from home, they are lonely or alone or with a new husband or a wife, and they miss traditions, and that they've bought my books and other books, and they've really felt connected to something that they miss, that familiarity. So you don't want to take that too much away from people, but there are a few like little shots here and there in the book.
I remember once I had a conversation with the great Palestinian artist Samia Halabi, Allah يطول بعمرها يا رب. And we were talking about preserving art and preserving collective art. And I love what you said, actually, because it's something like the cuisine is a kind of like, it's kind of an art, and it got developed in Middle East over thousands of years. And I love the fact, and usually like every time I try to switch something into the traditional recipe, I find it off, because I think there's something like those recipes stayed there for hundreds of years and thousands of years, and they just settled and they are just like perfect.
And especially because of what's happening with our eradication in every aspect, from our kafiyeh to the music, to dance, to food, to everything. I think now is the time not to explore too much and stick to what we do best, and to keep doing it. And then once we break this disaster of deletion, we can then come out of the box and do more free of what we want to do, just elaborate and be a bit more creative. But we need to preserve things now. Right. And later, who knows?
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I have, thank you firstly for having my books and cooking from them and enjoying them. It means a lot to me. Sometimes we write things and we do things and we don't know who's got them and how far they've gone. So it means a lot to hear that. But to answer your question, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. So I can't, like I was saying to someone else in another, I don't like to say things about things I don't know much about. So maybe it's something to think about and take it another step further. But for the moment, no. But anything is possible. This is the thing. I never want to say no to anything like concrete 100%, because if I look at my life in the last 10 years, we can go back even further, but everything I thought I was going to do, I didn't do. And everything I did was a surprise or a shock or an accident. And so I like to keep my life open to see how things are going to work out, but it's a possibility, yeah. I think I would like to think yes. To be honest with you, I'll give you a story. 4 or 5 years, well, when Palestine on a Plate was coming out in 2016, I had a PR company that I was working with. They're an amazing PR company. I had to do a supper club for all these amazing journalists, which are from the best newspapers and magazines in the UK. They came to this dinner. I had cooked for 3 days, and the book was coming out. And then I went to speak to each one by one, because I don't like to do a big speech in front of people. I have anxiety, and I thought one by one is even nicer. And each one of them, one by one, told me why they were not going to write about me or my book. As much as they loved the food and they loved the idea and the book was beautiful and all the stuff that you want to hear, they told me that they felt it was too prejudiced, too biased, too one-sided. How could they write about Palestine when they can't write about Israel? And I was baffled, because I don't think that we have to be connected with Israel to be Palestinian. And I was very disappointed and upset, obviously. And it really affected me emotionally to think that how can a cookbook become something that is not going to be recognized by the press, which we do need, unfortunately, to get your book out there so you guys can all know about it, and to be just completely shut off like this when they've written many articles about Israeli cookbooks, excuse me, without mentioning us. But when they mention us, they have to mention them. And this was something I became so determined to just fight again. And I pushing on my social media and contacting people to get the book out. and it worked because I need them in the end. I think us collectively as a group of Arabs, whether we're from Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, it doesn't matter. We have to be together on things like this. Not my book, just in anything that we do, because there's so much separation amongst us. It's very, very difficult to navigate it. So it is a very difficult thing to work. Even till now, I've been, 6 years with my books, and with the press, they still don't choose me. They'll choose some guy from North London who's a Jewish guy, English, who wrote a Palestinian recipe. Oh no, he put za'atar in his thing, and it's a recipe of Palestinian heritage. And again, it frustrates me, but I think, it doesn't matter as long as they're talking about Palestine somehow, but they'll never choose me. And it's not because it's me, Joudie, it's just I'm too Palestinian. I'm not open to discussion about other things, because I think we only need to talk about ourselves. We don't need to bring that other story into it. So yeah, it's not easy. It's not, but again, between us as Arabs, it's also very difficult because people get upset. This is not a Palestinian dish, this is a Lebanese dish, this is Jordanian. And I credit every country in my recipes. I never claim this is Palestinian. I just say this is our Palestinian way of making blah, blah, blah. And again, you have to always credit historically where something comes from, because it did originate somewhere. Not always in Palestine, but we have our own style.
But
I tell you something, most people think that forget Palestinian food, Middle Eastern food is mainly meat and meat. It's actually not. When I first proposed my book to my publisher, she gave it back to me and she said to me, I'm not publishing this. I said, why? She said to me, this is a vegetarian cookbook and there's only 10 meat recipes in here. And for your first book, it needs to be more equal. For me, I didn't think of it as a vegetarian cookbook, because when I eat sabanich and ruz, I don't think I'm eating vegetarian. I just think I'm eating a spinach stew. Or if I have mlokhiyeh, I don't think that it's vegetarian, whatever it might be. And then I look back at the book and I realize actually how healthy we are. We don't use semna in my house. We use olive oil for everything. So that's one way you can take out any animal products. But if you look in both of my books, Palestine on a Plate and Baladi, for I think about 65% of the books from the first to 65% in are vegan by default.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because, well, yeah, you can change yogurt to coconut yogurt or whatever you like.
Yeah, for sure.
A majority of it is, and then obviously you get to the meat dishes when they're not, but you can substitute everything with whatever you like to put in instead of meat. But there are so many recipes. I was shocked. I mean, I know a lot of recipes, but then my mom and my aunties and everyone else got involved, and I had a whole book worth of it. So do have a look and see. You'll find so many dishes that you'll love, and the tastes are fantastic. I hope that would be someday soon, but I'm not sure it will happen in my lifetime. I would not go to Safad. It's colder and no sea. I would go where my mom is from. She's more coastal, and Yafa and Lid. So I'd probably go. I'm a water person, so I need to see that. That's probably where I go. And what would I call it? I have no idea. My first restaurant was called Baity. But oh, you got me on the spot here. Guys, any suggestions what you would like my restaurant to be called? Ma barif, Joudie's, Mama's, Beit Mama, ma barif. I'm trying to think. I don't know. But I would definitely, yeah, it would be a great place. I can home at last, yeah.
Lovely.
Okay. So, very quick, short story. Once your book is published, your publishers take the books to book fairs. So you have the New York Book Fair, London Book Fair, Frankfurt Book Fair. They're the biggest book fairs. Then they go, and all the countries globally come to these fairs, and they choose which books they want. And they all told my publishers that, not just Arabic translators or any publishers, that Palestinian food, not sure, let's see. Is it going to be a thing? What have you? Because it was the first one that came out. And then lo and behold, when all the other books came out, they translated those. But mine, I think it was like too early into the story of Palestine for them to want it. But that's basically how it happens. It's not my publishers that decide. It's other publishers buying the rights to the books, and then they translate them themselves. I wish it was in Arabic. I wish it was in German and Italian and French, because we have so many people who want the book, and I might just do it myself. I mean, if you know any publishers in the Middle East, anybody who want to translate Palestine on a Plate and Baladi, send me an email.
I mean, there are some few books about like Palestinian cuisine in Arabic, but they are so boring because like all text. And what I love about your books is like all the photographies and the text is explained really with measures. So it's like really super easy for people who are not familiar with Palestinian cuisine to do it.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very kind of you. I tried my best. I have participated in a few here in the UK. I enjoy them, but I don't like crowds. I'm very anxious. I don't know, anxious is the right person. I'm just don't like the environment that much. I prefer to do it online because I feel I have much more engagement on there. I found my tool. I think to take politics out of it is impossible, because that's the whole point of what we're trying to do, is to readjust this political view on what people have on us, right? Because people think that we're terrorists and we're the reason why Israel is bombing us, and so whatever it might be. And actually they don't know the facts behind it. I try to educate as much as I can. And again, I don't like to speak out of turn about things I don't know enough about. So once I get to the point I know enough, and then I say, you have to ask somebody else, because I don't like people who talk rubbish. But yeah, I would like to eventually get back more into the events and the big food festival. But I did take a step back for a while because I felt it was so intimidating, having 150 people looking at you, and I just didn't feel like I was myself, and I didn't show my best side, just because it's not a natural space for me to be in. I like to be in the kitchen by myself cooking, and then, you know, having to wear a dress with makeup and lipstick and everyone's staring at you. It's not comfortable, and you end up, well, there are some people who love it, not me. The more emails and messages I get from people who are not Arab and not Muslim and not Palestinian and not anything to do with us, who write me emails and messages telling me thank you and we love this and we love that you posted about this. And I'm not political on my page unless I have to be. Like, for instance, yesterday was for the Nakba remembrance, and also when they start bombing Palestine or Gaza, whatever, I post about, I want people to know. And they're not just from the 120,000 people, it's not just Arabs. So I have English friends and other Western friends who see these things, and they get shocked that this is actually happening, because we don't see it on the TV here, on the news, they don't show it. So it's, yeah, I'm trying.
Thank you.
Definitely. I mean, I know my restaurant, when I had it, it had only home food. I didn't serve falafel or hummus or anything that you would find in anyway, all the restaurants here before the Israeli restaurants that open and my restaurant were all Lebanese restaurants. And it's not to take anything away from Lebanese food. It's delicious and it's pretty much the same as ours. But it was only, if you went to an Arabic restaurant, it was Lebanese food, and they had all the, you know, usual suspects. But what I did with my place is to do that, is to feed people home food. And that's why I think it worked, because it wasn't just your usual, like, let me go and get a kebab and shawarma and hummus and falafel and taboole and batata harra. It was homey and things that you missed. And I think given the opportunity and funding and being able to survive in these markets here, I mean, I don't know what it's like where you are, but here it's extortionate. It's very, very difficult to, I was actually shocked that I was open for so long. I was literally scrambling every day. But it's definitely something I think is important to have, because people miss it. and they want to eat those dishes. But I think it's also best to learn it as well, and have that ability at home to recreate what you love. But yes, I hope so. I mean, imagine to have like a restaurant where you can go and you feel like you're sitting at your mom's table. No, I was doing well. I had a busy restaurant. It was fantastic. And I just had a terrible landlord, unfortunately. That's the only situation. He doubled my rent overnight and I closed the next day. And it was just hard to function. But I loved it. It gave me the best experience, and I met so many amazing people who pushed me to keep doing what I was doing, because I literally gave up being a chef for 2 years, and I'm happy I came back to it, because none of this would have happened. These books would never have been written, and I would never been able to have the opportunity to talk to people and really learn more. I mean, I know a bit about Palestine, but I'm learning more about it from everyone I speak to, because everyone has a different perspective, which is so nice. Oh, it has to be 3. I can't choose one because I'm a pig. So, fatted makdous, fatted betinjan, fatted djaj, and yalanji, which is obviously the vegan taboole, vegan wara ainab. If I was going to die tomorrow, I would eat all 3 of them, like immediately. Oh, what do they like the most? I think Maqloob is one of the all-time favorites, because I think it looks so pretty and it looks like it's so difficult to make, but actually it's not. Definitely my za'atar rolls, which are delicious. Thank you, Nigella Lawson, for giving me the base recipe for that. And I think my banana date majul cake, you know, it's not traditionally Palestinian, but I try to use the most delicious Palestinian dates in this. And really, I think, gosh, I'm just trying to, there's so many things. I think the thing that they like the most is that they thought it would be complicated, but it's not. And the base spices that my mom uses are the same in everything, which is nutmeg and cinnamon, salt and pepper. And then you add stuff to it. You know, they thought that there would be like a long list of 25 different spices, which you would find in quite a lot of cookbooks. And even when I gave the book to my publisher, she said to me, you've got a whole chapter of meat and it's all lamb and no cow, and everything is nutmeg and cinnamon. What the hell is this? And I said to her, yeah, but that's got tamarind sauce, and this has got a tomato sauce, and that's got a lemon and garlic and chili and tahina sauce. And she was just like, okay, let me try everything. So I had to cook her the whole chapter. And she was like, oh, okay, this is great. So this is the thing, the ease, the flexibility, that you didn't have to spend too much money buying stuff to make it. And also, don't forget, most of our families were really poor back then. So they didn't have the luxury of having all the stuff that we can see in the supermarkets now. So it's all like tinned stuff now and dried pulses and things. So cost effectiveness, healthy, delicious, easy to make. I think that's what hits the spot. So like probably 95% of the world, all my work stopped. Because I was sick for such a long time from before coronavirus hit everyone. And then once I started again, I had to stop again very shortly after. So I didn't have any projects. But what I've been doing, not work-wise, but I've been painting a lot. So one of my paintings here, she's basically representing what I feel the world is feeling now, just like shock, devastation, and a bit of heartache. I love to paint, so I think I've done quite a lot of things. I'm just looking around my room as one big like art studio. And also, like I mentioned earlier, I'm working with this amazing charity called Paces to help create and make food for 250 people every day in Jerusalem, in Palestine, at the Augusta Victoria Hospital. And I was so happy to be part of it because I felt so useless. Like, what am I waking up for every day? And I'm alone, so I didn't have anyone sort of like talk to, I mean, physically interact with them. So that time became even harder as the 5-6 months have been passing. So yeah, I've just been like dipping myself into little projects here and there, and really sort of centering myself. But for the future, honest to God, I would love to do a food line in the supermarkets, to have Palestinian food like shatta, and I mean, it's not a food, it's a condiment, but like shatta, and ready-made meals and frozen meals of wada anab and stuff like that for people to buy, put in their ovens and get it ready, and make it something really national, that it's not an unusual thing, and not Lebanese, and not, you know, Israeli, Palestinian. And this would be an amazing project I would love to do. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you never know. I've been working on it for 3 years and it's still at stage 1. It's not, it's not an easy place to move from, but yeah, like everything will happen if you just keep believing in it eventually. And never stop, really. The only thing that's going to happen for sure is that we're all going to die eventually, but in between I'm hoping to like cram in as much Palestine. Maybe people will get sick of me, but I don't care. It's just...
In the chat, she says, Joudie, you've mastered the online food platform, but as a former restaurateur, where do you see traditional restaurant industry?
Traditional, oh, I don't know. I've been speaking to all my chef friends over the last, chef friends who work in restaurants or run their own restaurants, and to be honest with you, it's a question that we don't know. Obviously many restaurants are now doing takeaways and deliveries and things like this, but this is not a way to sustain the life of a restaurant. You need different sales to make them last for a long time, and it's not a takeaway mansaf or matluba that's going to keep you open. So I think, you know, I read a really nice, it was really sad actually, not nice, but there was something about the Titanic, and it said, you know, when the Titanic was going down and there's the orchestra playing the violins and they sank with the ship, the food and beverage industry is the orchestra, and they are literally sinking with this coronavirus ship. And if you think about the food and beverage industry globally, it's one of the biggest things in the world, and it's dying, and it's very, very difficult. So I feel bad for myself, but again, I look around and I just think, if it all goes to hell, I can find something else to do. But when you have that commitment to a lease and a contract and staff and rent and rates and food suppliers, it's a chain of events that is catastrophic. So my answer is, I have no idea, but I hope something changes. I don't think it will change for another year or two to be normal, and I don't even know if we'll ever go. I don't want to go back to normal, because normal was terrible. We were so abusive of everything. We need to strip back a little bit and stop being so greedy. And yeah, but I don't know. I hope everyone survives financially, economically, mentally, emotionally, and hope no one gets sick. Like 20 questions in one question. And I told you the other day, if I keep rambling, just do this. Just stop me.
We'd love to extend this for hours and hours. We love you. We love you, Joudie. Thank you very much.
Joudie, thank you so much.
Share the news about the Majlis with everyone, and repost about it so we can grow this community. And thank you, Joudie, very much. You did a great job, and we can't wait to see you in New York, Ramallah, or Kuwait, whatever.
I hope so. Guys, please post on my behalf. You know, my account got hacked. I can't access it. So I don't know when I'm going to see you next on Instagram. They tell me my account doesn't exist. So, and I should start a new one. No way.
It's like Palestine never existed.
Right? When we're thinking the same things. That I went on that tangent with somebody. They're like, "Come on, Joudie, don't be crazy." I'm like, I'm telling you, it was because of the Nakba post I did yesterday. Suddenly my account doesn't work anymore. But yeah, please keep posting, share everything you can with people about anything positive to do with Palestine, and people like you guys doing things like this. We have to keep sticking together, and not just Palestinians, all of us. You know, we're all part of the same community. We've all infiltrated everything, and we need to be one.
Right. Thank you very much, Joudie.
Thank you, guys.
Very soon.
Anyway, I do like nonprofit work with